during everyone was dressed up in, like suspenders, doors, like.
You will have at least
I
one
actually,
person.
met Bill Nye there. He's an avid dancer. And I was actually I was in awe, but that's weird. Like they're like, oh, he comes to a lot of them in Florida.
Timer's not on. The clock's not working.
But it's cool. It's like, again, like, most people, like, when they go there, like, they'll just be like, oh, cool. Hey, do you want to dance?
Oh, there we go.
And that's why. So it's not just like,
Never
I'm with my partner
mind.
and just
Operator error.
minding my.
You should have to know how to turn it on. It's too much to ask.
Became fewer. Stuff like that. They were supporting, they were giving scholarship program education to people who came from other countries who didn't have any resources. So financially, both the schools and the parents stopped.
Depends on where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is useful here for sure. I got enough
In fact, I saw
devices.
you may have seen it on.
What, you don't need a few more?
No. When I retire, I'm getting a flip phone.
About a month ago, there was a class.
I'm gonna go to the museum and steal one out there and take one out of there.
Somebody tried, but
I want to make phone calls and do all this other stuff.
There was a, half a dozen of these guys broke out. One of them goes to the local
So
state
you're a
police
computer geek like
barracks,
Timothy, you bring two, and you got your notes on one,
turned himself
you know,
in.
we still handwrite stuff.
Say, okay, I'm done.
listen, I can't even read my own handwriting, right? I write in hieroglyphics. Like, even my wife yells at me all the time. She's like, "What is that thing?" And I'm like, "That's milk." She's like, "No, it
State
doesn't.
police works
That's a
for-
pyramid. What'd you do?" I'm like, "That's why I got a computer here."
Somehow he got directed, I don't know, if somebody passed him.
Traditional piece, we still have
Told
them.
him
It's finally
the
starting to
closest
switch.
FBI
With the new Windows.
They
Just get a new one.
They haven't brought anything more to me, but I know what I'm talking about.
That's what you need to do.
I know it's some bullshit. Let's go over chapter 5 stuff. I know.
I would have to have a mouse or go on the website to do
That's
that.
why I love this thing right here. Because it just snaps on. She's been looking at that.
Yes, and my son got an iPad.
I should make that announcement.
Post modifications.
Oh, right, yeah.
I really just challenge myself to get that. And start using that.
Good morning, it's the Citrus County Planning and Development Commission hearing for June the 19th, 2025. And just a quick reminder to the board, please speak into your microphone today because we have a court reporter. So at this time, if you'd like to join us, please, I invite you to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, please give us the grace to be understanding, patient, and tolerant. With these attributes, we can conduct our work in a manner which will be pleasing to Thee, our county, and its residents. In the Lord's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. For the courtesy of the applicants, the board, and those around you, at this time, if you can place your cellular devices on silent or mute, airplane mode, however you want to do it, appreciate that. Thank you. May we get the roll call, please?
The following Planning and Development Commission members are present: Chair Richard Barmez, David Bramblett, First Vice Chair, Stuart Bozeman, Jeanette Collins, Michael Facemeyer, Kurt Stone, and alternate Timothy Gilbert.
Thank you. If any person decides to appeal any decisions made by the commission with respect to any matter considered at this hearing, he or she will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose, he or she may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record will indicate, which records will include testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. During the public input portions of the meeting, individuals are given 3 minutes, and representatives of an organization has 5 minutes. When anyone wishing to speak comes to the podium, please complete a yellow form to hand to the recording secretary, and please print your name, address, and the number of the application of which you are speaking on the form. The yellow forms can be found at the podium by the door, and if you represent an organization, a letter of authorization must accompany the speaker. Comments will be limited to the topics being heard, so please state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the tape record. Now, at this time, I want to open up the podium for the public. This is an opportunity for you to come forward to address this commission on any issue that you may wish. But as a reminder, this is not about the application we're going to hear today. But you're welcome to tell us anything. Anyone? All right, this time I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting down. And we do have minutes to approve for March the 20th, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of March 20th, 2025 as submitted.
Second.
All right, we've got a first and a second. Any discussions about the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Commissioner Facemeyer, if you can pull your mic down and
Sorry.
speak into the mic.
Pull the mic down a little bit, there you go. So-
Thank you,
yeah,
sir.
great. Thank you.
How's that?
Thank you.
Much better.
Do we have any staff announcements?
Can't give away your microphone, Mr. Stone. No staff announcements right now. I'll go through a brief rundown of upcoming meetings at the end of the meeting, but in the absence of the county attorney, I'm going to go ahead and proceed to ex parte communications. If any board members have any ex parte communications they want to disclose of the application that we're hearing today, and I'll start at the end with Mr. Bozeman.
No.
None.
Site visit.
None.
None.
Site visit?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, it's time for application CU 2025-0007. If the applicant is present, if you can work your way to the podium as we get the staff introductions, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This request is to allow for a 159-foot monopole telecommunications tower in the RUR Land Use District. This is an aerial view of the subject property. This is a view of the existing house of worship from North Lecanto Highway. This is a view of the location of the proposed tower. This is looking north on North Lecanto Highway, looking south on North Lecanto Highway. This is the proposed site plan as submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Matt Tanaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite C4, Safety Harbor, Florida 34695. As a point of order, I do have a PowerPoint presentation that was submitted before the deadline for you to review.
Well, enough our technologies. It's the operator, it's not the technology, and not you, Cheryl. I'm saying that. Is it a PowerPoint or a PDF?
It's a PowerPoint.
Okay, so I think we have it as a PDF.
It's a PDF.
Okay, so you just have to scroll for you, unfortunately, you just got the
Okay.
color. Yeah, sorry about that.
You just let me know when you want to advance to the next screen.
Understood.
All right, our tech person that is the genius in all is gonna fix that.
So while this setup is going on, as you heard, I come before you today respectfully requesting approval of a conditional use for a shrouded monopole style communication tower at Alt Key 1459036. And this property is developed as the First Baptist Church of Beverly Hills. It's along North Lecanto Highway. The parent parcel is zoned RUR with a future land use designation of rural residential. So in all maps I show you today, up will be north. And you can see on the map that I am showing you that the orange line that's angling is off to the right is US 41. You can see North Lecanto Highway, diagonal running through the property. The orange arrow is the location of the parent parcel. This is just a closer aerial pointing to the parent parcel. And then here we are closer yet. Now, I've highlighted the parent parcel with blue, and this is an interesting parent parcel because effectively there's two separate property appraiser lots, but the church owns the nearest residential lot to the west, which is that blue, okay, I apologize for that.
It's okay.
So you can see the blue lot that's highlighted in lime green. That's also owned by the church. So when you were looking at your staff report, it said that the nearest residential unit was 160 feet away. That is actually a lot that is owned by the church. The nearest residential structures are over 2 times tower height separated. So from a spirit perspective, this does meet the spirit of the code. Another thing to keep in mind about this site is that it is a shrouded monopole. I will go into that discussion in a moment, but it's a type of camouflaging technique that isn't recognized under the Citrus County Code as camouflaging, but it is an effort to make the tower cleaner and hide the antennas. So because it's not officially recognized as a camouflaging technique, like say if this was a 159-foot tall tree, we are here before you as a conditional use. This is just your future land use map. Again, the orange arrow points to the approximate location of the monopole tower. And I'm sorry, this is our zoning map, and I have highlighted the parent parcels. And then again, your future land use map. So when I speak about a shrouded monopole style communication tower or shrouded monopole, I'm discussing a tower that looks like this. It has a single support pole. All antennas and cables are contained within the monopole itself. And then at the top, there is a triangular or circular shroud, in this case it would be triangular, that has the actual antennas and radios. And this is actually an evolution of the flagpole style communication towers. You have several of those around the county. I miss zoning those because a flagpole is you know, it's nice to be able to put up a flagpole with an American flag and also have it serve as a communication tower and have those fit like that. Unfortunately, with the way that technology has gone and the way that we have increased the amount of use on the cellular network, antennas and radios now need active cooling. So air has to flow over essentially radiators on the back of them. So they need more space than what a flagpole canister would provide. You physically can't fit the antennas in there. And also, it essentially bakes them. It would be no different than if you put your Wi-Fi router in your attic. So that is why we have moved on to things like shrouded monopoles, because it allows the ability to create a cleaner look, hiding the antennas, but you have the ability to have airflow through the shroud. This is just a closer view of a shroud. This is a round shroud. And you can, the other thing to keep in mind is that also the bottom has a mesh to help obscure if you were standing underneath the monopole to try to look up inside it. All right. And I do have one building that is just within the 2 times tower height separation. But as we move around and we go, our next house is 358 feet to the west and 518 to the north. The other thing to keep in mind is that you have mature pine canopy in between the church property and the residential lots off to the north and the west. Additionally, as you proceed deeper into the subdivision, there's canopy throughout that helps break up view sheds. This is sheet C2 from the plans. You can see the monopole will be located essentially alongside the church building, slightly to the south and west of it. Access would be provided off of North Licano Highway. This type of facility generates 1 trip per carrier per month, typically in a pickup truck-sized vehicle because it's automated. One of the things is that this is sheet C3 from the plans, and this is actually at an angle. So the north is off to the lower left-hand corner of your view. The purple arrow points to T-Mobile's co-location. This monopole is proposed for T-Mobile's use. That's the only reason that APC is proceeding with this, because T-Mobile identified a gap in their network, in their coverage in the area, and they asked APC to proceed. So your code encourages sharing communication towers so as to reduce the overall need for communication towers in the county. So that way you don't end up with what they call in Atlanta tower farms, where you might have a property that has 2, 3, 4 towers alongside each other because everyone wants their own tower. So when we look at this, the purple arrow, of course, is T-Mobile's equipment area, and then the green arrows would be the future co-locations. So if Verizon comes along, AT&T, Dish, their equipment would be located there. That equipment at the base consists primarily of traffic cabinet-sized, traffic signal cabinet-sized lockable cabinets, essentially, that the computers are within. So once upon a time, there used to be actual shelters, so it has shrunk down. There would likely be a sound dampened generator because the carriers are required to provide E911 service in the event of a storm, so at all times, so they have to stay operational in the event of a storm. This is an elevation of the shrouded monopole, and this shows what it would look like if all 4 carriers, if there were 4 carriers co-located on this monopole. It would begin with your first 2 shrouds up top and the cross, and then shrouds would be added down below. So you have your first one, likely your second one would be added to support the cross. And then as additional users come online, they would join on there. This would be painted to match the church building, so it would be painted a tan color. Our design itself is, the reason that we're coming to you with a shrouded monopole instead of something like a monopine, other than the fact that a monopine, which looks like a tree, would have a canopy going all the way down it that would add bulk. There are enough trees in the area to provide context for the area, for that camouflage, but the church would like the structure to be architecturally integrated with their church structure, if that makes sense, for it to look like it logically goes with it. So hence the shrouds, hence the color matching, hence the cross. This will have the code required white shielded light. Your code does require a white light for your mosquito, I believe for your mosquito control, but it's shielded to point the light upwards and out. This will have the 25-foot wide type D landscape buffer. The plans did show that as a 20-foot wide type D buffer. It's the same number of plantings. Unfortunately, they showed it as a 20, but staff is asking for a 25-foot wide buffer, and we will provide that. Running through photo simulations. All right. So the first view is from North Princewood Drive. So essentially, one of your houses to the north. And you can see the location of that house, and then the road comes around and curves. And we're going to work a clockwise circle around the property. And as you can see, the pine canopy in between, this is the before view up top, and this is the after, with an arrow pointing to the approximate height of the monopole. You would not be able to see the monopole. Here's view 2 from North Lecanto Highway. You can see the church off to the right, and you can see the monopole in the lower picture. It is within the viewshed of North Lecanto Highway. It's within the scale of other structures that you see along the highway corridor, such as the power lines on the left and the right. This is where you're going to see your most visibility of the monopole. And this is just a clearer view of that. And then moving on to Persman Drive, North Persman Drive, you can see the monopole through the canopy, but it's not extending above. And this is just the fact that objects that are closer to you appear bigger than objects that are further away. And then finally, our last view is from West Norwell Bryant and is from North Sandalwood Drive and North Pinewood Drive. And you can see the monopole peaking above the canopy in the background. All right, moving into RF need, because that's the only reason that we're here. APC wouldn't be proposing this tower unless T-Mobile said, go forth and build us a tower in this area that's able to support this type of antennas. And the way that T-Mobile comes to that is that they're analyzing their network, and they're looking at things like dropped calls and the way that the information flows, the data flow over it, things like loading on existing antennas. They can actually watch the traffic patterns, and they fight a similar concurrency battle with the cellular network that counties fight with the road networks as we expand our uses. But this site is primarily to provide indoor coverage and in-vehicle coverage. This is 5G signal, so that way it's able to soak up the increased uses. Because we've gone from the days where, when my father first got his cell phone down in Sarasota, right? He was an advertising salesman down there for Oldies 106. He used it instead of payphones to call and check in with my mother. I'm sorry, I'm going to be 3 hours late because the John Ringling Causeway's stuck in the up position, instead of her just not hearing. Now we use it for everything from Zoom meetings to remote classes. I recently held a briefing call with an RF engineer where he was in his house and connected to the cellular network as his primary form of internet connection for his entire house. So it's increasingly becoming that connection to the outside world. As we do that, we're putting more traffic on the network, and we're using it in more places than just roadside. All right, so our nearest towers, to the north, way up to the north, is the Citrus Springs Golf and Country Club. To the south, we have Beverly Hills Boulevard and technically a couple blocks over from Essex, but I tried to get the biggest road that I could from the maps. To the east is North Licano Highway and State Road 41, just west of there. To the west is North Licano Highway, down where the Walgreens and the AutoZone are. And you can see the marker that has no color, that is the proposed monopole. Here is the proposed coverage. Green is reliable in building, yellow is reliable in vehicle. There will be additional signal boosts that are below the reliable in vehicle threshold. So if you're outside or if you're inside, you might get partial coverage or intermittent coverage. But this is just in the effort to not overpromise and underdeliver, only showing what meets the reliable thresholds for each of those. Your coverage would roughly run from West Hampshire to North Bestro Boulevard. To the south, Beverly Hills Boulevard and North Tyler Street. To the east, West Rexford Drive. And to the west, West Pine Ridge Boulevard and North Bedstro. This is just T-Mobile's RF package on file, just showing the signals that your code requires us to provide proof that T-Mobile's a licensed carrier and to show the signals that they broadcast on, and this is what they are proposing. One other thing to keep in mind for the monopole is that it will be compliant to the Florida Building Code, in that in the unlikely event of structural failure, it would fall over upon itself and be contained completely within the parent parcel. We call this fall zone technology. This is nothing new. Usually when I am describing an example of fall zone technology, I talk about when Hurricane Charlie came through DeSoto County and Charlotte County in 2004, and it came up Kings Highway and folded all the lampposts over upon themselves, and they were all folded at the same height. That's fall zone technology in action. In other words, it's a predetermined crimp point in the monopole. And then finally, I just want to bring your attention to 911 call statistics. This is for your 911 call statistics down in Hillsborough County. You're looking at roughly 88% of all 911 calls received by Hillsborough County nowadays comes from wireless numbers, and that just shows how much we've disconnected from landlines. So that concludes my primary presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have, and I would respectfully request that you recommend approval. I adopt staff's expert analysis into my presentation instead of reading it back to you or reading my cover letter to you, which I imagine you wouldn't want to hear. And we are agreeable to all of staff's proposed recommendations of approval, or conditions of approval. With that, thank you for your time.
All right, does staff have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, sir. She just answered one of them. It was going to be about the conditions. But the other question I had was, could you elaborate just a little bit as to the material of the shrouding? Is it solid panel, metal?
Yeah. So you're usually looking at a almost like a reinforced fiberglass, so that way it can meet the wind zone requirements, but still be RF transparent. You wouldn't be able to see through it at all. Let me back up. Here's an example. And so basically what you have there are fiberglass type panels that are connected through a reinforced frame. So that way they are wind resistant and they meet the wind zone.
All right, no further questions.
All right. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Gilbert.
In the 30-foot access and utility easement, are you guys having to run fiber there?
Yes, we do anticipate that we'll be connecting fiber for backhaul.
Where do you, I guess I'm confused. Where's fiber anywhere on the Canto Highway? Currently, I guess.
It is likely that T-Mobile will have fiber brought down from the nearest point.
Okay.
Once upon a time, these towers, they used to put a small microwave dish for backhaul to the nearest point. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, the industry is literally bringing fiber to these towers.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Guess that leaves me. I have a few for you. I'm going to start off simple. How many T-Mobile customers are in your area there where you want to put that tower?
I don't have the exact count. If you would like me to get that, I would have to continue, but I could bring that in.
And who makes your tower? Nello Corp or Raycap or?
It will depend on the bid at the time, but I would imagine you would see the tower constructed by someone like TAP, who has experience with constructing towers. There's really only a handful of them. And then the actual shrouding would be provided by someone like Raycap or Stealth.
So are they going to be flexible or stiff plate installation?
So we're getting a little bit beyond the zoning. Forgive me, we're getting a little bit beyond the scope of zoning. If you would please tell me what you mean by flexible or stiff plate. Are you referring to the mounting plate at the bottom?
Correct.
Okay. So monopoles inherently do have a little bit of flex. They're actually not that's why grouting isn't part of the physical support for the tower anymore. It's exclusively the bolts.
So then excuse me for my questions because there's safety questions for the
Absolutely.
around there. So zoning or not, I do have questions that might not appear for you for that. So I apologize in advance. Another question I have is multiple areas in your presentation. It states that you have 155 foot And then 159 foot, which is it, a 159 or 155?
So it's 159 to top of lightning rod, 155 feet to the top of the physical steel.
All right, do you know if that church has a school or preschool at that location?
I do have the pastor with me if you would like to hear from him on that one.
All right, well, I have another question for you then. Is it electromagnetic sensitivity in your tower, or?
Yeah. Electromagnetics is interesting because there's actually federal law on that. And so at this point, since it's come up, just for the sake of my malpractice, Carrie, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the Telecom Act of 1996 prevents local jurisdictions from making decisions based upon environmental effects of RF emissions. And that's codified at 47 USC Section 332, and I would like to put a copy of that into the record, just, again, malpractice reasons. May I present it?
Right, just to jump in, Ms. Matt Nye is an attorney. She's not an engineer, I don't think. I don't think you have an engineering background. But she is correct in that the federal government has been very strict. The FCC says that's our baby. Basically, you don't touch it. We can't use that as a finding of any kind of health impacts, health effects, electromagnetic effects to people. That is something that the federal government has told us hands off, no. And that's the FCC. But she is correct on that. I think that's what you just introduced, yes.
Yes, but what I can confirm is that T-Mobile and APC, so T-Mobile and its network and its co-locations, and APC as a professional tower company, that owns and maintains sites, will maintain this site within FCC safety regulations and standards.
Thank you. Any other? Commissioner Bozeman.
Just a couple things. So on the one page where you show the multiple arrays, you have the proposed and you have 3 future
Yes.
arrays. That's for an expansion based on demand from other carriers.
Correct. So if Verizon comes along, they would add one of those 3 shrouds below.
Okay, so you do have the capacity to carry 4, and all the design principles on that particular mast are designed to carry 4 that ultimately, potentially?
Correct. That's
Okay.
actually baked into the conditional use, that it have the structural capacity for that.
Okay, and the primary power source, is it coming out of the power grid, or what's the generator, just as backup?
The generator is just a backup in the event of storms, so if the power goes out, the primary power source is the power grid.
Okay, and finally, the light on top, aviation grade, now you say it's shining up?
Correct, and your code requires it to be shielded.
Yeah.
So that way it's not shining down.
So it's basically a flat shield, it's not a cone, like flat, so the airplanes can see it?
Essentially is
clearly.
what it's designed to,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. I think that's it.
Understood?
Thank you, Commissioner Bozeman.
I have a question.
Commissioner Bramlett.
The one deviation that you're asking for, now that we've got the buffer zone cleared up, the proximity to the lot that the church owns, that particular parcel that the church owns is, based on this map, is a separate alternate key?
That is correct.
So what do we do to keep the church from selling that parcel off in the future, where then that monopole is within the fall zone on that property that is now considered an improved residential if someone were to build on it?
So just to circle up on that, the fall zone wouldn't be located on that parcel. So that parcel is brought to your attention because there is common ownership and control there to provide visual buffering. I imagine the church isn't planning to dispose of it anytime soon, but it's not a situation where you would have this approved and it would be within the fall zone of the tower. So to speak to your original concern.
It would still fall within a residential property that the actual land development code says is excluded though, correct?
No, sir. It would fall within the parent parcel. So I apologize. Let me be more specific. It would fall within the.
Hang on, when I say fall, I'm not talking about like fall over.
Yeah.
Right, we're just talking about the 300-foot buffer zone. It would
Got it.
fall within that 300-foot zone, correct?
Correct. It would be within the 300-foot, the 2 times tower height separation.
Okay. So I have a little bit of a concern with that, with it being a different alternate key number. I don't know if maybe you have the pastor and he wants to kind of speak to that condition, because I don't know if we're allowed to add any conditions that say, they can't sell off their property. I'm pretty sure that we can't do something like that, but based on the current information sitting in front of us and the ability to sell that property in the future, and then we would have an issue that would be against the LDC. I'm sort of kind of waffling on that, so I would need a little bit more information on that particular part of the subject.
Understood, and I will bring the pastor up in a moment. The point of the conditional use is that, to provide an approval in a situation where you do need a deviation like this. So, for example, if this was a tree, we wouldn't be here talking this route. We would be on the administrative path with the tower in the same position. So we're not running against the land development code, if I may be so bold. We're running in a situation where it just requires a little bit more scrutiny and a little bit closer look. With that, I'm going to bring up Pastor Terry Herndon. Please state your name and address.
All right, my name's Terry Herndon. My address is 2677 West Axelwood Drive in Beverly Hills. I am a trustee at the church and not a pastor, okay? So just to straighten that out quickly. 2 questions were asked. One is, do we have a school on the premise? And we do not have a school on the premise. The other is for the property. At this time, we don't have any plans of selling that property. The question, we had bought that property, what I was told years ago. So if we wanted to put a parking lot or another building on the property where the church sits, we'd have to have so much land that would be required to do that. So we have no intention of selling that property at all. It'll probably be here long after that tower is probably gone. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. We get the staff to come forward to present the staff's presentation, please.
Good morning.
Morning, Joe.
Joe Hockedell, Principal Planner with Land Development. This application is requesting a telecommunications tower that exceeds 150 feet in height in the rural residential land use district. Again, here you can see the aerial of the subject property. There is an existing house of worship on the site, and it's at basically the corner of County Road 491 and Forest Ridge Boulevard. And so here, again, you can see the site plan that was submitted, and it is kind of small. I'll see if I can zoom in here. So they are locating it basically on the western portion of the subject property, about as far away from Lecanto Highway as they can get. The fall zone is the circle that you see on there, and so we do have an engineer's letter stating that the fall zone is 50% of the tower height, and so at 159 feet, that would be about an 80-foot fall zone. And so the fall zone itself does fall entirely on the main church property, not the other property that they own. And again, here's a view of the approximate location of where the tower and the tower compound are to be located. You can see the church building over here off to the left with a fenced-in area, and then this is County Road 491. It runs along there. And so there are some trees on site, there is some vegetation, but it seems like the tower will be fairly visible from County Road 491. And again, here's the proposed landscape buffer, the type D landscape buffer, which is a requirement of the Land Development Code, and the elevation that has been discussed showing multiple carriers that are shrouded antennas. And so here's kind of where you can see, I tried to zoom in and put it on there a little bit on the aerial so you could see where it's located. The one real deviation for this application, as been discussed, is the 300-foot separation from a residentially designated off-site use. So it's not necessarily an adjacent off-site use, it's 300 feet from a residentially designated area. I would like to point out that this parcel right here that is directly adjacent to where the tower compound is part of the Pine Ridge Master Plan. I believe it's designated as an open space and landscaping tract. But the parcel here, which is owned by the church, is designated on the Pine Ridge Master Plan as a single-family residential site, and so therefore it can only be used as a single-family residential site. And so if the church were to want to utilize that, they would have to change the designation within the Pine Ridge Master Plan to allow for it to be used as a house of worship site. So their existing site, rural residential, that other parcel they own is single-family dwelling. And there is also, and it's kind of hard to see, a 5 or 10 foot strip that runs along the north of the church site and the west of the church site. And so this parcel does not actually directly abut their church site. And, as with any telecommunications tower, there can be nothing within the fall zone. So that fall zone's got to be totally clear, safe space. So with that, the applicant has provided a lot of the technical requirements for this. They've demonstrated a need for the site with the propagation study and the evidence of pursuing co-location. There is no tower within this area that they can co-locate on and still meet their service needs. They've provided all the technical specs. Really, the only deviation with this is the 300-foot separation to a residential property. So, and even though the tower will be visible from some angles, the applicant is proposing to do some shrouding. It doesn't technically meet the alternative tower requirements in the Land Development Code, but it's an effort to conceal the tower and make it fit more with the church. So we do have suggested conditions, which I would modify one of them just briefly. Condition number 3, there's no width listed on condition number 3, which is the type D, so we would add a 25-foot type D buffer. And with that, if you have any questions.
All right, does the applicant have any questions for staff?
Matt Tenai, John, none at this time.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Joe, I do. Just to clarify my head a little bit. So we're going to make a determination on we can use a cell tower, but we can't use other information that's inside the packet. Is that my understanding?
I don't know if I understand the question.
Well, I had questions that I wanted to talk about the RF factors and the EMS. It's in the packet. I wish Denise was here to help me, but I don't mind being shut down. But I do mind if it's in the packet, why can't we discuss it?
So what I can tell you, I've been doing tower permitting for 19 years in Citrus County. What I can tell you is that the Land Development Code does require that they provide documentation from the carrier showing that they're going to meet their FCC requirements and they're going to be able to basically meet all those standards. But as Joanna stated earlier and as Ms. Jean stated earlier, the actual emission portion and the possible effects on health, that is all federal statute, and the decisions today cannot be based solely on that. They have to be based off of the specifics of the Land Development Code. So.
Well, yeah, it's just not detailed to clarify that in the paper, in the packet. So I was just trying to get some clarity of the law. As you know, I sat on the governor's task force for EMS since 2009 to 2018. I just had questions that I would like answers, but I guess I can't get them. So that will lead me to the next question is there's a title paper in our packet, am I allowed to ask questions about that? There's,
Which
there's
page is that?
The title package is on page 141. There's question number 7 about deed restrictions. It says that this is a deed in the chain of a title that the property shall be used for church purposes only. I have some concern about the building tower on the property such for the use of this restriction. Does the county have any concerns with that?
First, while he's looking at that, you can always ask anything you want, and I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. I didn't mean you couldn't ask questions. It's just that your decisions cannot be based on what the FCC says is their purview, which is health factors and health safety. It sounds like you're talking about deed restrictions? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, is it from the
Yeah.
title review?
Right, so those are private deed restrictions that, this board does not uphold or enforce, but a good point to ask the applicant about.
Yeah, I found what you were referencing, and it does look like it's a deed restriction, which the Land Development Code does not govern.
So let's say we grant this today and we build the tower and then this comes back up later.
That would be a civil issue.
A private civil issue, the
Right,
county
private.
doesn't have jurisdiction on deed restrictions.
And this board does not have decision on that as well, correct?
Correct.
You can consider it, but it can't be one of your decision-making.
Correct, yeah. All right. Any other questions for staff? Thank you.
Joe, if I could just clarify, you talked about the track that, between the church and the residents that they're the closest to, and that's a landscaping track, correct? So those trees have to stay, is that what you were saying?
I believe it's a landscape and open space track
Okay.
per Pine Ridge.
Okay, so those trees should stay like the photo simulation then, okay,
Yes, anything that's located in there would have to stay there.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Johnson.
Commissioner Gilbert.
Since you've been doing this for a while, what other churches in Citrus County have a tower on them? Do you know of any on top of your head?
Yes,
If you
I
don't,
do.
it's okay.
I do, actually.
Okay.
So there's one on US 19 across from Ozello, St. Benedict's. They have a telecommunications tower that has a cross on it. The Our Lady of Fatima in Inverness, even though that's within the city limits of Inverness, that also has a telecommunications tower with a cross on it.
Okay, I mean, that worked. I
So-
can see the brain turning, so thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate it.
I was thinking of
Right.
one Little Owl Point out in Florida, Inverness.
Oh, yeah, that one's the newer one, yeah.
Any other questions for staff?
I just have one, like, just for a point of reference on, I didn't see it in the packet, but the 300-foot, the LDC 300-foot from a residential, like, give me a rough, is that 86 feet right there? From the center?
That would be 80 feet,
80 feet, that white line?
yes.
So roughly
Double that.
2.5 times that
Or, yeah,
roughly then,
yeah,
right?
roughly. Mhm.
Okay, so does that fall into the property across the street, across that, what is that, Princewood?
Right, so it would be to a residentially designated land, so
Uh-huh.
it's not necessarily to a home, it's to a property line. And so it would, and I apologize, I didn't actually do the 300-foot on any of my slides.
Yeah.
But I believe it would connect with this property, and I think it connected with this one, but definitely this one.
Yeah, right.
So, and I
So-
believe this one was actually over 300 in the table in the staff report.
So in your permitting of the other towers, are there any of the other towers that have any deviations that fall within that 300 feet? I'm just curious, and if you don't know the answer, it's okay.
It's been a long time since I looked at some of those, so
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
I know that we've permitted or we've approved some here, and I don't really recollect the whole 300-foot deviation, maybe because they didn't ask for it or something, but this sort of is just kind of, I feel like it's a little bit of a sticking point that I sort of want to hear some additional information on from maybe my colleagues, or maybe even if you have any additional input on it.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head think of another tower that had a deviation from the 300-foot separation. I would say the ones that have been placed within that were considered alternative tower structures or stealth towers. And the Land Development Code does allow for a lot of of leniency when it comes to stealth towers. And so, they don't always have to meet the rest of the standards in the land
What does that
development
mean when you say stealth tower? I don't know what that means.
code. So a stealth tower is another version. It's in the land development code. It's called an alternative tower structure. And so it's a tower that's designed to blend in with its environment so it doesn't look like a tower. So when you see these flagpoles, like the one behind Circle K off of 44
In Rock Crusher, yeah.
in Rock Crusher, that's a telecommunications tower that was designed to look like a flag and a flagpole. There's
I've
another
seen
one.
some, okay, so like the ones with branches and things like that, that
Yep.
look ridiculously
And
not like a tree,
as
like
Ms.
you're trying to
John-
hide a pole. Right,
Yeah,
okay.
she
And
was
so the
mentioning
300
on-
feet is just for, what is that for? Is that for visibility purposes? What is that safety net for?
It would,
It is.
yeah.
It is. It is for visibility.
Strictly
exactly.
visibility.
Yeah, because we can't consider health, and as long as the fall zone is not, we also have fall zone. Okay, sometimes they're the same, but lately the towers are not. So yeah, it is an aesthetic standard.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Stone.
if Commissioner Bramlett would look at page 48, there's some distances from the tower to various different houses shown. Page 45, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was just kind of looking for more of a
First
circle.
slide, okay.
Just a circle on there to make it real easy for me.
I apologize, I didn't prepare that one.
That's okay. Future reference. We're always trying to get better, right?
That's right.
Thank
Right.
you. No further questions.
Any other questions for staff?
I have
Commissioner
one.
Collins.
I just wanted to confirm on the FAA, it looks like you ran it through the notice criteria tool. Does not appear to exceed the criteria so that it needs FAA approval. Is that correct?
Correct, that's my
Okay.
take on that.
And
yeah.
it would not go before the airport advisory board? because
I
of
wouldn't
its-
think so. Based on where this is located and based on where the airports are, I don't believe this is going to have an impact on that.
Okay, and then the lighting, I know that's always a concern. The shielding, that's a criteria of the land development code. It would hopefully protect some of the adjacent homes that may be able to see.
Correct, yeah, the lighting has to be shielded so that it's visible for aviation purposes, but hopefully not visible to the people who live around it, yeah.
Okay, and then the height, it's the 155 plus the 4-foot lightning rod that's taken from grade. I do notice there's some elevations on one of the site plans that was provided. The property does come up some towards the rear, but you don't have, I didn't see anything that showed the elevations of the adjacent properties. Do you know if they continue to elevate higher, or?
You know, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I know that the application states 159 from grade to the top of the lightning rod, and so we go to the highest point of any appurtenance. So that's why it's 159, is that's the top of the lightning rod.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Joe, I got one other question for you. In our land development code, as far as the towers and the attachments to the ground, is there a standard that we use? Because I know there's 4 different ways that tower could be mounted. Do we specify one of the 4 major attachments?
So that would be a building code requirement, and I can't speak to any kind of building code requirement for how that tower is attached to the ground. My purview is just land development code requirements.
So we just go by the engineer report drawing, and that's how the county makes their determination?
So if it meets Florida building code requirements for structural, then they can construct it in whatever manner is allowable per Florida building code.
Let me ask you a different way. Does our technical service division review the installation of a cell tower?
Yeah. So when this comes in for permitting, if this is approved, then it would be reviewed by all the appropriate departments and divisions within Citrus County. And so, yes, technical services would look at it, the building division would look at it, land development code would look at it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Bozeman.
Did you, or do you have comments regarding the ground lease agreement from staff? And I'm looking at it, and I was just curious, there's a fair number of redactions in here, which is understandable. But the term, I think, is 5 years. Did any concerns or?
That's not something that's part of our purview to look at a lease, and I'm not an attorney, so
Right. So what they're trying to prove by even providing that is that they have to have co-locations of at least 3 or more providers. So by saying that and saying that they have the right to go there is what they're doing, but they don't actually have to give us a copy of the lease. I appreciate that they did to try to demonstrate. But
Yeah, I was just curious if you had, because, there's some terms in here that are reasonable, not uncommon. I would just.
Yeah,
see
yeah.
what y'all's
Thank
take
goodness
on
we
was.
don't review that, no.
Yeah, okay.
Nor will our attorney.
Where's Lynn? No, it's okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Facemeyer.
Joe, this is a pretty simple question. If this structure were to be proposed to be 149 feet to the tip of the lightning rod and not 159, would we be here today?
yes, because it's in the rural residential land use district.
So we would be here for, if that tower were any height. This,
Correct. It's a monopole within the rural residential land use district, also requires a conditional use. So if it met the requirements of an alternative tower structure, no.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Joe. All right, this time the public portion of the meeting will be open.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, did she ask staff, did the applicant get to question staff?
I asked her, she said none.
I apologize, thank you.
Thank you. The public portion of the meeting will now be open. If there's anyone present who would like to speak on this application, please come forward to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address this board. If you have any documentation that you want to be entered into record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. Anyone?
Good morning. My name's Kanita Echeverria. I live at 4819 North Peppermint Drive, which is catty corner to Persimmon Drive. I have a full view of 491. When we moved to Citrus County, I thought it was a wonderful place. I looked for residential. I did look for cell towers. As a registered nurse, I know we can't use that because of health, but I'm a registered nurse. I do have concerns. And I would have not purchased my property if I was able to visualize it. You can put up, the more you try to disguise something, the more you add to it. I'm also a licensed realtor. So I do understand people's, they don't want to move next to a tower. It hurts our property values. If I want to move my resale value. And I ask that to be taken into consideration. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, ma'am. If I get you to get a yellow form at the podium, or at the front door and bring it back to the recording secretary, thank you so much. Thank you for helping her, Joe. Anyone else? All right, last call. All right, does the applicant have a rebuttal on the public input portion?
Matt Tenaya, John again. For the public itself, I know that of course I would remind that not the RF coverage, which I showed RF coverage maps to show that the reason that we are here, and that's before you, but the idea that there's health effects from RF, that is what's not before you. She averred that she was a licensed realtor. If you are concerned about property values and you feel that that's preventing you from reaching a granting of approval, I would ask for the opportunity to bring a licensed real estate appraiser in who will provide a report beforehand for the board for the commission to review. I would respectfully submit that as far as communication tower uses go, this is just like any other infrastructure use. It does have to be distributed out throughout the county because communication towers are inherently local. The RF coverage maps that I showed you today show that. We would not be able to leave the general vicinity and provide coverage. If you have questions about that or you want to dive deeper into that, again, I would need to bring an RF engineer, but I'm willing to do that if you would like to hear more. And in that instance, I would respectfully request a continuance, again, if you feel you need more information. There's questions about the lease agreement. We did provide that to show that we have the right to be there, so that way, you know, it shows that we aren't trying to apply on somebody's land that we have no legal right to. It is a standard in the industry that leases are in 5-year chunks. And the idea of that is that, let's say that, you know, T-Mobile all of a sudden didn't need towers. Then what would happen is that APC would then be able to end the lease, and under the lease they are required to remove the communication tower. Additionally, just to dovetail off of that, your code does require removal of communication towers when they are abandoned. For the FAA, that is correct. It does not exceed the notice criteria, so you don't have to go through the additional aviation study. And also, other than the county requirement for lighting, the FAA would not require lighting for this tower. So if we were, say, let's say that we were in Pasco County right now, this would be completely dark at night. So it's completely a creature of the Citrus County Land Development Code in that instance. I can only presume it's because of things like mosquito control. That's usually where I see it in other places like Collier. An additional thing to keep in mind is that with modern LED lighting, as opposed to the old incandescent lamps, they actually have directional lenses. So in addition to the shielding, the lens is directing the beam as well. If you would like a condition of approval to that effect, I would offer that. That they use the directional lenses in addition to the shielding. I believe I've touched on everything at the risk of talking to the point that you don't wish to hear my voice anymore. Are there any questions that I may answer at this time? All right.
No.
With that, I would respectfully request that you grant approval. Again, if you do feel that you need more information, let me know and I would request a continuance. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. At this time, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting down and bring a discussion back to the board. Who would like to start? All right, then I'll start. I believe cell towers are very important to our society today. I believe without cell towers, since we have no landlines, we wouldn't have communication that we have today. But I don't believe they belong in a residential area. I think the deviations for the off-site separation and the buffering is not adequate for the properties that directly around that tower. So I would not be in favor of this application because of those two reasons.
I'll go next. As someone who doesn't have a landline at home that lives in a residential neighborhood, I would respectfully disagree that towers don't belong in a residential neighborhood. That would mean that we would need residential neighborhoods smaller than 300 feet in width, I'm guessing, just to miss the 300 feet circle. So based on Ms. John's presentation, in my opinion, what we're really talking about here based on the map and the entirety of the question and the validity of the 300 feet is position number 3. position number 3 on her presentation, page 159 of 290. It's, from what I gather on page 48, the 290 feet separation is actually to the house. But if I'm understanding the LDC correctly, it's actually to the property line where the 300 feet goes. So that would actually be beyond the elevation of the house on position number 3, that house there on the corner. I believe that's Persimmon. And then she has the view, position 3 existing, and then proposed with the 155-foot or 159-foot monopole. It's got that shrouded view with the Pine Ridge. That property is just going to be excess land. Clearly, you know, it was by the curve of the road. They won't be able to put any development on there. Will those trees last forever? I don't know. Who knows? That's tough to say, but with the 10-foot difference and the shroud of trees that are already there, and just the basic fact that I know that cell towers are a need in today's society. I too am a real estate agent, and I've yet to come across customers that weren't excited to have good coverage in their home. Most of them, some of the things that they do when they walk in the house is pull their phone out. They want to know what kind of cell coverage they have. So I'll be in favor of it, and the only reason I would just want to, put a little caveat out there. It's the difference with the 290 and the 300 feet. If it was just an uninterrupted view from that position number 3, I would probably be a little less inclined. But it's a fairly shrouded view, and it's a position of need, so I would be in favor of it as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Bramlett. Anyone else? Commissioner Facemeyer.
I concur with Commissioner Bramlett. I retired from a major telecommunications company long before cell towers were in everybody's pocket, but at the infancy of the cell technology, and when the technology evolved from landline, hardwired in everybody's house and everybody's kitchen to what it is today, even though some people still hold on to the landline, this is the current best technology. Is it perfect? No. Was the landline technology perfect? Of course not. This is the best we have, and I think this is a reasonable application, and I plan to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Facemeyer. Commissioner Bozeman.
Yeah, for the reasons I just heard from both of the gentlemen, I would be supportive of this. I'm going to date myself. My first cell phone was a bag phone, not very functional. And of course, over the years, they've evolved now to where they're very useful, very functional. I haven't had a landline in 25 plus years. The only calls I ever get is from phone solicitors on it. So we disbanded that. And you're right. I think that when we purchased the house we're currently living in, that was one of the things I did, was took my phone out inside the house and said, see if I've got a signal here. Now, it wasn't a deciding factor, but it certainly is a beneficial factor. So I would be in support of it myself.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozeman. Commissioner Gilbert.
I'm going to switch pace here for a second and agree with you, Mr. Chair. I don't support it. I'm a cybersecurity engineer by day, and I love technology, but I don't think this is the spot for it. I'm a little worried about the future if we agree with it, putting it here today. I have a lot of concerns about, again, what could happen to that back property, even though the church says that they don't want to sell it or they have no intention to. That intention could change tomorrow. It can change in 20 minutes. That's my biggest concern, as well as future infrastructure there. If we already have a pole up there, what stops them from saying, hey, we want to add more carriers to this, or in the future? I know that would have to come back to us. I just don't like the precedent of let's keep stacking utilities here. So I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert. Commissioner Collins or Commissioner Stone, you have anything to say?
I'm not opposed to this request. It is a monopole. And I would be in favor of making a motion with the modification that was made by staff for condition 3, that it be a 25-foot type D buffer. And I would like to add the condition as was recommended by Ms. John, to add the directional lenses in addition to the shielding to the conditions of approval. I can make a motion when everybody has spoken.
Commissioner Stone,
I have no objection to it.
all right, for the purpose of a motion.
That the Planning and Development Commission finds application number CU-2025-00007, excuse me if I say this wrong, Matania, S. John, PA, for First Baptist Church of Beverly Hills, consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that the board approves with conditions as was modified, the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition. It has been determined that approving the proposed conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest, that there is compliance with special rules governing individual conditional uses of the type involved, that the proposed development with conditions and safeguards attached would be generally compatible with adjacent properties and other property in the district, and that the PDC is empowered under the section of the LDC described in the application to grant this conditional use.
So we have a first by Commissioner Collins.
I have a question real quick. I didn't catch what she said as far as I know that we were talking about condition number 3, where we were adding 25 feet, but you mentioned something else.
Yes, the applicant, I was concerned about the lighting and how it could affect the neighboring properties, and she advised that she would be willing to add a condition where they would have the directional lighting lenses in addition to the shielding, just to protect the neighboring properties from the light.
Would you like me to, I came up with some language for that.
Sure,
If you'd like me to.
might as well just put it in the record.
So that would be proposed condition number 8, and it would say, as proffered by the applicant, lighting must have directional lensing in addition to the shielding required per the Land Development Code to reduce impacts to surrounding areas.
Matt and I, John, for the record, and we're agreeable to that language.
Perfect. Second.
So we have a first by Commissioner Collins, a second by Commissioner Bramlett. Any further discussions from the board? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So 5-2, motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we have staff announcements.
All right, couple of things. First, I'm sorry, Mr. Landon, I always don't look at you first. Do you have anything to talk about?
Good morning. A couple things. We have a big day Monday. We go live with our new software program, Acela, and that'll be, it won't be for everyone. It'll just be for those that want to participate in it. So if you have something midstream or in process, or you prefer, or you, for right now, you want to continue with the program that we have, that's fine. So we're looking for beta testers that are willing to try it out. So
what program for what?
It's called Acela.
For what?
For building permits.
Oh.
Yeah, for building permitting
Okay.
and inspections. And then, so that goes live on Monday. Also on Monday is our first workshop at the County Commission for impact fees. Our consultant's going to present the first of 2 workshops for impact fees. Those are proposed to increase, I think roughly from about $8,000 now for a single-family home to over $13,000. And the two big increases will be school board. So right now the school board is collecting at 50%, and they want to collect at 100%. We did that with transportation about 1.5 years ago, and then the other big increase is transportation cost. So those are the 2 big jumps. But they'll go into great detail on how all that's calculated and how they came to that conclusion. But that'll be Monday at 9 a.m. at the courthouse.
All right, you can put me down as one of your VIPs on your Acela if you want.
Okay, if after the meeting, we can grab you, and we have classes upstairs starting next week where you can, like a 101 class.
Okay.
Or if we have a concierge service where if you want to come in and do your first application, we'll do it with you and walk you through it, create a username, password, all that stuff. Or we've created some YouTube videos where you can self-learn from home if you prefer that way. I like that whenever I'm working on stuff at home. So however you prefer to do it, but we'll get your contact
I like to
information.
think I already know everything about it, but I've been using it for years.
So fortunately, a couple of our staff members came from Manatee County when they were implementing Acela. So they have been instrumental in kind of leading the way. And their relationship with Manatee, Manatee allowed us to use their intellectual property. So they've had it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're not getting it out of the box. We're getting 10 years built out. So we're very fortunate for that.
Very good. Anything else?
Yeah, just, okay, I'm sorry, did you have anything else? You're done? Okay. Your next meeting on July 3rd is Pine Ridge Reserve, the golf course. Last time y'all heard this, a little over a year ago, we had a full house and all of our overflow rooms full too. This time, I have no letters in opposition to date. It's going to be a lot different, I expect, so I don't think it's going to take that long. We'll see. We'll see. I have been fooled before, but right now, public input is almost silent.
I do have a request, Joanna. If we do have an overflow crowd like we did last time, can we not have?
Right, we've had that.
people seated
Yeah.
right here? I
We're
mean,
well aware of that, and yes, that was very
Thank you,
vocally
Commissioner Facemeyer.
displayed by another member. Yeah, I do not expect an overflow next time. It's been super quiet, but we'll see.
Okay.
So that's July 3rd. Your meeting after that on July 17th, we have two applications. One of them is a application for us, our consultants working on the Land Development Code for the Cardinal Interchange Management Area. We've adopted the comp plan. This comes back with the Land Development Code regs. Also, that would be your training day with Ms. Lynn. She's preparing something for that. That'll be your time to ask all these questions that you want to ask, not application specific. Okay, we can't talk about the tower, but we can talk about other things in general and how we proceed and all the questions that y'all I know might have. That's her time. So we'll be pushing on that. We have a lot of very large applications in the hopper. They're not quite ready for y'all yet, but they're getting there. So Citrus County is not slowing down in any way. You might see in the newspaper about a new mine proposed near Pine Ridge. The Land Development Code says that for new mining applications, instead of the Plan Development Code, it goes to a special master, an attorney that's agreed upon by the applicant and the county. So y'all get a pass on that. I think that's probably a good thing. That will be a very contentious meeting. That's the 27th, I think, Friday, here in this hearing room at 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. So if you want to, you can watch it on YouTube. I think you should be grateful to not be having to sit on this one, but we have a lot coming towards you, and we'll try to warn you ahead of time when we think things are going to be a while. Okay. That's all I have.
All right, great. Any commissioners have anything to say? All right.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.